Hello and good evening, and welcome. My name is Simon. I'm from CramTheExam.com, and welcome, and thank you very much for joining me at this unearthly hour at 9 o'clock in the evening. I hope to do webinars a little bit earlier for you. I know that 9 o'clock and thinking about English perhaps isn't the best idea, but think of this as an alternative to a bedtime story. Having a look at two open-close exercises for the FCE and the CAE. Now, just a few technical questions. Please say hello on the chat. Let me know if you can hear me. I know I'm doing lots of talking now, but it's not much good if you can't hear me. So can anyone just say hello that they can hear me, just so I know that everything is okay? If no one says anything, then I'll just assume that you can hear me and I will continue. Okay, I hope I don't want to spend ages and ages going through this, and it will probably be about 20-25 minutes, maybe even faster, as we go through these open-close exercises. But before I get stuck into it, just a few thank yous to the Facebook pages. And if I'm looking left and right, it's because I'm looking at two different screens with two sets of information. So just bear with me as I orientate myself. Just a few thank yous to the Facebook pages who allowed me to advertise this webinar today. So if you are on the web page for big thank you to Cambridge English Advanced CAE, big thank you for Matura 2019 Polski Matematyka Angielski Inne Przedmioty, and a big thank you to Matura 2019 z angielskiego podstawy I rozszerzenie bez spinki. So I'll link to all of those Facebook groups in the link below this video when I finish this video and publish it on YouTube. Okay, so saying all of that, let's get stuck in. And of course, thank you to Flojo for providing this information, or having these online exercises that we can practice our exam skills. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is have a look at the FCE exercise, and hopefully you'll be able to see it on the screen. Hopefully above my head you'll be able to see the answers if we scroll up to answer number 1, or gap 1. Let's get stuck in. Okay, oh, hang on a second, let me go onto the right page. This is the FCE one. There we go, FCE. FCE1, FCE is about environmental concerns. Typical unit that you'll get in FCE and indeed CAE or English exam topic, talking about the environment. There's almost always a unit about the environment, so there's no surprise that there's an open close or an exam question about environment as well. Okay, so if we have a look through the text, Earth is the only, this is the example question, Earth is the only place we know of in the universe. All of the other, just to go through the example question, all of the other answers are not appropriate. Earth is a place, it is a location, it's not a situation, a position, or a site. So the only answer here could be B. Earth is the only place that we know of in the universe that can support human life. Okay, and the first question is an excellent question because straight away we will get the correct answer to this question if we've done one of the most important things that we need to do for the open close, and that is read through the exercise before we start filling in the answers. If we read through the exercise, we get the context, and that's important here because answer number 1 is yet. Why is it yet? Oh, because yet is a conjunction, and it's a conjunction that suggests a contrast. That contrast being Earth is the only planet that supports human life, but human life or human activities are making the planet less fit to live on. So there's a contrast there, and yet is the only only correct answer that suggests a contrast. Now, you're probably thinking, well, as a matter of fact, Simon, there are two other words which suggest contrast, although and despite. And you're absolutely correct. They do suggest contrast. So why is the answer not although or despite? Well, this comes down to sentence structure. Although and despite are subordinate subordinate conjunctions. That's right, they're called subordinate conjunctions. And a subordinate conjunction belongs in a subordinate clause. And a subordinate clause needs a main clause. So what we need here is a sentence with both a subordinate clause and a main clause. Perfect example is a conditional as an example sentence with a subordinate clause and a main clause. So the subordinate clause is the hypothetical if ... and then you have the main clause, which is simple, which will be the first conditional, will be the present simple future. Here, if we go back to our exercise, we can see that this is a simple sentence. There's only one clause in this sentence. There aren't two clauses. So that means we can't use subordinate conjunctions. So although and despite, yes, they suggest contrast, but they don't fit the sentence structure that we're presented with here. If you've got any questions at all, or if I'm speaking too fast, or you don't understand what I'm saying, or if you disagree with me, then please get in contact on the live chat and let me know so I can make some changes. Okay, question number 2. As the Western world, let me scroll up here. Now, let me have a look at my notes. The key word here, as always with open close, is the preposition on. The answer that we've got to choose has got to collocate. In other words, it's got to work with the preposition that follows. So, can we say continues on something, something, something? No, we can't. Can we say repeats on continue something, something, something? No, we can't. Can we say carries on following ... Yes, we can. That collocation works, to carry on doing something. Can we say follows on ... We can. So we're down to C and D. So why? So which one is our answer? The answer is C, and that's because of the language structure which follows. So you've got the preposition, and then you've got the gerund afterwards. So consuming, which is a gerund. Follows on consuming. That pattern doesn't work, or that language pattern doesn't work. So it can't, from a language structure point of view, it can't be follows. And of course, if we have a look at this from the point of view of context, what we need here is a word which means the same as to continue doing something, not necessarily following someone else doing something. So carries on is our answer because 1, it works with the language structure, and number 2, in the context, it means what we need it to mean. In other words, it means to continue. So if we carry on reading, it says, as the Western world carries on consuming 2/3 of the world's resources, while half of the world's population do so to stay alive. And we've got we've got 4 answers here. We've got already stay alive, just to stay alive, already to stay alive, just to stay alive, for to stay alive, entirely to stay alive. What are we trying to say here? What's the message trying to say? Here, what it's trying to say, it's trying to suggest that this is an action that happens for one particular purpose. So we could say for the purpose of staying alive. And that is exactly what just means. I'm going to take you to this tab here. And we need just as an adverb here. And if I zoom into the page so you can have a look at this, you should be able to see it. Let's move the live chat out of the way. Right here, exactly. That's just what I need. You're a human being just like everyone else. And it's this context, this meaning of just that we need for the answer. So half of the world's population to do so just exactly for the purpose of staying alive, just to stay alive. On to number 4. We are rapidly destroying the very resource we have by which all people can survive and prosper. Everywhere fertile soil is. Now, what's the key word here to get the correct answer? The key word for question number 4 is or. So we've got to think of one of the answers which works with or. Now, we can say sooner or, but normally the collocation would be sooner or later, and that language pattern isn't here, so the answer is not sooner. We can't say neither because, of course, grammatically it would be neither nor, not neither or. So we can't say neither. Can we say either? Yes, we can. We can just as neither needs nor, either needs or. So here we've got a choice. So either this or this. Rather or, we can say rather that one. No, we can't say that. No, as saying that, I can't think of an example. If you can think of an example, then please let me know in the live chat. But I can't think of an example where we would say rather this one or the other. Rather is a word that we use for choice. I'd rather have that, for example. So I can't think of a context where we would use rather. So from a contextual point of view, the only answer that we can choose here is either. And of course, that fits the context as well. So everywhere fertile soil is either built on or washed into the sea. Renewable resources are exploited so much that they will never be able to recover completely. We discharge pollutants into the atmosphere, which means we let go of pollutants into the atmosphere without any thought of the consequences. And for question number 5, what we need here, based on the context of what follows, as a ... the planet's ability to support people is being reduced at the very time. So what we have is a linker, which is a conclusion of some kind. So there is an action, and then in conclusion, or therefore, something else happens. So we need a word to finish off the expression, which means the same as means the same as therefore or in conclusion. And the answer, of course, is result. So as a result, the planet's ability to support people is being reduced at the very time when rising human numbers and consumption are what? Let's have a look at the answers for number 6. So are doing increasingly heavy demands, are having increasingly heavy demands, are taking increasingly heavy demands, or making increasingly heavy demands? Of course, the key here is the collocation, and the collocation with the noun, the plural noun, demands. Can you do a demand? No, we can't. Can you have a demand? Not really. Can you take a demand? Can you make a demand? Yes, of course you can. And which is why the answer for number 6 is making increasingly heavy demands on it. So with all of these open-close questions, whether it's FCE or CAE, you're always looking around the gap. If you can't see the preposition or you can't see the immediate word which you have to collocate with, then you've got to look around the sentence, and the word that you choose, sometimes, not always, because as we saw with number 5, that's an expression, but with very often you have to find the word where the answer collocates with that word, and then if your knowledge of vocabulary is good enough, then you'll get the answer. The Earth's natural resources are there for us to use. We need food, water, air, energy, medicines, warmth, shelter, and minerals to what? That's not going to go up anymore, so I'll just about see that over my head. And once again, this to get the answer correct, we've got to think about collocations. We've got to choose the correct verb, which does two things. In terms of language structure, it's got to work with us immediately after us. Immediately after the gap. So hold us, maintain us, stay us, keep us. So straight away we can cross out number C because we can't say stay us. We can say hold us in some contexts. We can say maintain us in some contexts. But keep us, we can say that as well. And then we've got to think of the collocation. So we've got the verb, and then after the verb, we've got, adjectives. We've got plenty of adjectives after. We've got fed, comfortable, healthy, and active. So then we've got to think of collocations between the verb and the adjectives. So can we say hold us fed? Not really. Can we hold us fed, hold us comfortable, hold us healthy, hold us active? Not really, doesn't really work. Maintain us fed, maintain us comfortable, maintain us healthy. Once again, a bit of a stinker. Keep us fed, keep us comfortable, keep us healthy and active. Yes, of course. And that's why the answer is D. We could make maintain work, but we would have to change the structure of the sentence to maintain levels of food, of comfort, of health and activity. We could change the text if we were thinking about this, if we were writing this and thinking about writing this in a different way. We could change the structure to use maintain, because maintain is quite advanced vocabulary, but we would have to talk about maintaining levels of something, but we'll save that for a different video. And so lastly, for number 8, if we are sensible in how we use the resources, they will what indefinitely. Now, the key word here, I'm going to just move myself over. There I am, flying up in the air. I'm just going to, so you can see the answers here. Indefinitely. Indefinitely means forever. Which has definitely got a time context. So maybe this word is a clue because it talks about time. And if we bear that in mind and have a look at our answers, then if we can find an answer that also talks about time, then that might be a very good answer. So last. If something lasts, well, that definitely talks about time. So how long will the play last? How long will your toothpaste last? Etc, etc. So a bit of a bad example, but you get the general idea. We can use last to talk about time. Stand, in some political government contexts, perhaps we could talk about standing in position or standing in, maybe we can't now that I'm thinking of it. Not really. Standing in time, not really closely connected. Go, that talks about action as opposed to time. Remain talks about staying, also not really a heavy time focus. So if we have a look at that, if we are sensible in how we use the resources, they will last indefinitely. So they will last forever. And certainly if we have a look at the following sentence, but if we use them wastefully and excessively, they will soon run out and everyone will suffer. So clearly the context is about time. So if we bash last, we'll see that it's the correct answer. Good, I'll pop myself back over. There we go, fly again in midair. Okay, if you have any questions at all about, or you disagree with anything that I've said, or any of my explanations are a bit confusing, then please let me know, either in the comments section after this video or now, and I'm quite happy to deal with your questions. I enjoy the exchange, so don't be afraid. Okay, let's have a look at the CAE. The CAE question. Okay, let me just organize my screen so we can see everything. Okay, good. Now, this slightly more advanced vocabulary, slightly more advanced collocations, but still nothing to be afraid of because the rules are still exactly the same. So the point of phobia, let's go through the example question. The point of phobia awareness week, so why something is happening, the point of something, why something is happening. So this is a great collocation to remember for future writings and so on. So the point of phobia awareness week is to, and you can remember that however you learn English, whether you learn English by words or in phrases or in collocations. The point of something is a fantastic collocation, and if you're writing essays or in your oral exams, then that's a collocation that you can without doubt use in pretty much every single answer, I would imagine, or find a context to use that. So the point of Phobia Awareness Week is to highlight the difficulties that many people face in everyday situations. It is important to something between a fear and a phobia. Now, once again, this is all about collocations, should be your first clue. So which of the answers can we use? Which of the answers can collocate with between? Can you choose between things? Yes, you can. Can you distinguish between things? Yes, you can. Can you select between two things? No, you can't. Can you pick between two things? No, you can't. So straight away, we're down to two options, A and B. So now context is important. Are we making a choice, which would be A, which would be choose, or are we trying to find the difference between two things? The context suggests that we're trying to find a difference between two things, in this case, a fear and a phobia. So the answer here is B. And if I can get my cursor back across, where's it gone? There it is. So the answer for here, number one, is B. Now, for number two, it's something usual for all of us to have our own peculiar fears. So what this is trying to say is that it's normal for us to have our own peculiar fears. That's the basic message. So let's get into the language side of things. Usual is an adjective, and we know that we need an adverb to modify an adjective. So you need adjectives to modify nouns, and we need adverbs to modify adjectives and to modify verbs. So we need an adverb here, and certainly all of the answers that we have are all adverbs. Very absolutely, quite and truly. But they are different types of adverbs. I'm going to click on this link here. I'm sure you remember, and once again I'll post a link to this in the video description once the video is on YouTube. I'm sure you've come across the idea of gradability of adjectives. Normally it's the first thing that you meet, but you also have the gradability of adverbs. So you have some adverbs which are gradable, and you have some adverbs which are ungradable, which means, and the adverbs that we want here are gradable adverbs. I'll let you read that in your own time, but it narrows down the choice to very and quite. So then we've got to think of what's the normal collocation, what's the normal vocabulary? Is it very usual for something to happen, or is it quite usual for something to happen? Bearing in mind that we're talking about something being normal, or normal not, and not being a bit strange perhaps. So the answer here, the correct collocation, would be quite. It's quite usual for all of us to have our own peculiar fears. For example, being anxious around snakes or nervous about flying. However, only a very small proportion of us actually have a phobia or a fear of these things. When these fears begin to what you embarrassment. Now, we've got to once again think about collocations. Which of these verbs works with the noun embarrassment? Now, the noun embarrassment is key here, because if it was the adjective, if we said embarrassed, then we could say makes you embarrassed. Not a problem. But we can't say makes you embarrassment. So B is not the correct answer. Can you create you embarrassment? Not really. What we can create embarrassment Of course we can, but we can't create you embarrassment. So the language that we're presented with here also rules out C. Do you give you embarrassment? Can people give other people embarrassment, or can situations give people embarrassment? Not really. It's not the correct collocation, which means the answer here is A, to cause you embarrassment. Or, and let's continue with the text, or you feel that your life is being disrupted, then you would be wise to seek treatment for what potentially could be a phobia. By far the most something phobia, by far the most something phobia. So we need the correct adjective to collocate with phobia. The most standard phobia? Not really. The most average phobia? The most normal phobia? Well, you can't say most normal. This isn't a collocation. Oh, is it? Yeah, you can say. You can't say normaler, normalist. Or can you? Maybe you can. I can't. Normaler. The more, yes, we could say more normal than most normal. Yes, you can. So the most normal, but it sounds a bit strange. The collocation is a little bit weird, but most common, not a problem. A very, very common collocation. So the most common thing, in this case, the most common phobia. So that's our answer for number 4. And potentially the most disruptive is agoraphobia. The word derives from Greek, and 5 means fear of the marketplace. Now, the key bit in the sentence beforehand, so the word derives from Greek. So the word has its roots, it comes from the Greek language. And what follows is what we're trying to say that it exactly means. But we use a different expression when we're saying what something exactly means, because when we're translating generally old language, Greek and Latin and so on, and we try to translate it into modern language, sometimes it's we have the translations, but if we think about the translations or the original word exactly, then sometimes we have a funny translation. To give you an example, my name is Simon. Simon is apparently meant to mean the listener. So Simon literally means the listener. And so when we have a look at the original Greek words, we have a look at what they literally mean. In other words, if we were to take that original word, and translate it directly, that would be the literal meaning of something and what we know it to mean today. So we have the literal meaning and the actual or official meaning. So this is the collocation that we're looking for number 5. It literally means fear of the marketplace. And the Oxford Dictionary does a much better job of explaining what literally means compared to what I just did. So if you're not happy with my explanation, then please go on to this. Once again, I'll link this this page in the video description below the video when it's finished. Okay, let's go back to CAE. But we apply it today to describe a distressing condition in which people 6. Which people going outside because of the awful feelings of anxiety that arise. So what we're trying to say here is people don't want to go outside. They want to do whatever they can in order not to go outside. So straight away we can cross out C and D. So miss and slip are 2 words which do not mean the same as not wanting to go outside. So we're left with 2 words. We're left with A and B, dodge and avoid. Now, both of them mean more or less the same thing, but so what's the difference between them? Here, I would argue the difference is one of register or formality. Dodge is informal, avoid is formal. given the context of this article that we've got, this uses formal language. So in order to fit that context, in order to fit that style, the answer would be avoid. Because you can dodge something, but we generally use that in an informal way. We wouldn't use that, for example, in a business report or in the legal world or in the medical world or so on. You would use that if you were talking to friends. I dodged getting out of, I dodged something. But if you were talking to someone else on a more formal context, then you would say avoid. If you think there's a different answer between dodge and avoid, then please get in touch and let me know. I'm more than happy to improve my explanations if you're not happy with them. Number 7, treatment of phobias usually consists of the patient behavioral therapy, during which they gradually get used to being near the object or the situation that causes them fear. So we need to, reading the sentence to the end to get the context is important here. And the idea is that the patient, the person who is suffering from this phobia, is taking part in some form of treatment, some therapy, in order to get better, which means the answer can't be B, because we would have to say taking part in, and of course that language structure isn't there, so it can't be B. You don't, as a collocation, you don't do therapy. Therapy is not something which is done, so that collocation also is wrong. Similarly, you don't experience therapy because it's being done specifically on you. So experience might be that it could be that give you the context that you were in the area, or you had night, or you saw what was going on, or something might have affected you, or something like that. And that's not what we're getting at here. So we don't experience therapy, but we do undergo therapy. We do undergo treatment. So if you're, from a medical point of view, if you're ever talking about medicine, and that topic does arise from time to time in FCE CAE and Multiple exams, then the collocation that you need is to undergo therapy or a treatment of some kind. And so that's why the answer is A. Now, let me move myself across one more time. Where can I put myself? I'll put myself here. I try not to be in the way. So for number 8, drugs may be prescribed to treat anxiety. Let me move myself out of the way. Drugs may be prescribed to treat anxiety, and many people choose, excellent vocabulary, alternative therapy such as acupuncture or hypnosis to help them, to help them come to what? Come to a what with their fear and conquer it. So once again, the preposition is important. Acceptance with something, come to acceptance with something, not good. Come to terms with something, sounds okay. Come to realization with something, not a good collocation. Come to comfort with something, not really. The expression, the phrase that we're after is to come to terms, which means to accept something. In this case, accept their fear and conquer it. Okay, thank you very much for watching and going through this with me. I hope I wasn't talking too fast, or I hope I wasn't getting too carried away. The general idea with open close exams, whether it's FCE CAE or Matura, is that it's a test of your vocabulary skills, how you see language, which patterns you can identify, which phrases that you know. So it's a real good test of your vocabulary. And of course, as I always said when I was teaching this, it's the easiest question on the exam paper, because if you don't know what the answer is, then you've got a 25% chance of getting it correct if you were just to make a guess. But of course, we don't want to make guesses, we want to make educated guesses. And if we can narrow the options down to 3 or even 2, then we've got a much better chance of getting that correct. Okay, if you've got any comments at all, positive or negative, if you want me to go over anything again, or if you have any questions, then please get in touch. And I hope to see you again soon, where I go through some more use of English, reading, listening, and even maybe writing exercises to help you get ready for your English exams. Thank you very much and goodbye. I'll say goodbye in a second once the internet starts working. Hang on a second.